Hello everyone, my name is Danielle, or Dani, whatever you want to call me. I have a lot of strong opinions on a lot of things, you guys know this, and so I wanted to make a video where I just tell you guys my opinions on things. I asked you guys on Instagram to send me some things, and I'm going to talk about them. I think this should be obvious, but I'm just going to tell you all, these are my opinions. So you're allowed to have your opinions, I'm allowed to have my opinions, we're allowed to have different opinions, and we can all still be friends, okay? The first controversial thing that someone wants my opinion on, that's how I worded it, is thoughts on paying for your husband and yourself. This is really interesting to me because I grew up in a very, I guess, patriarchal family, you could say, where men were very much expected to pay for women. And I always thought that, like, if your boyfriend didn't pay for you, he was a bad boyfriend. Or if your boyfriend didn't have money, then he was a loser. Stuff like that. Even as a teenager, literally, like, as a 17-year-old, I would be like, oh my God, if he doesn't have money, like, he's stupid. Like, he should have a job and have a bunch of money. Which, like, yeah, sure, teenage boys could have money, but they might not, and that's fine. And also, they don't have to spend it on you. But my point is, when I started dating Emin, we actually had a lot of fights about this because I thought that he was crazy for not thinking that women should never pay for literally anything. And, like, when we would split bills or things like that, like at restaurants or whatever, or when I would pay for stuff or whatever, I would get, like, upset about it because I thought that it was, like, treating me poorly. But the reality was, like, he just didn't have any money. Like, we were 18, this is before we got married, and he had a job, but A, he was really bad with saving money, but B, he would spend almost all of his money on his band, and he would buy, like, equipment and amps and guitars and stuff like that. And so he just never had money. And yeah, theoretically he should have had better money skills, but at the end of the day, me paying for myself or us splitting things when we went out to dinner, which we didn't do all the time. Like, he did pay for us sometimes, and I paid for us sometimes. Like, we just kind of, it was pretty equal, it was pretty normal. I feel like that's just, like, a cultural thing that people believe for some reason, and it also goes into marriage, like, especially in America. I don't know how it is in other societies or countries. You guys should tell me about this if your culture does it differently, but, like, it's super looked down upon for a man to stay at home and be, like, a stay-at-home dad, or for a woman to, like, make the money. So, like, when I was supporting Emin for the past couple years, people really made fun of me for that and thought that Emin was, like, a loser, even though he actually was, like, actively trying for something. It's kind of like some people will go start a business and they'll quit their job and they need, like, their spouse to pay for them. And this happens a lot. And so one spouse will be paying the bills. And for some reason, like, people will look down on a woman for, like, paying for her husband, and they'll say that, like, the man is stupid and the woman should be the one, like, staying at home or something. But then they won't look down on a man. And, like, if a man has a full-time job and is paying for his wife because she either A, wants to sit at home and not work, or B, she's, like, you know, starting a business or needs help, is in school, something like that, they think that it's okay one way but not the other way. So I think that's stupid. And for the majority of my marriage, like, technically I have paid for everything, but also he helped me a lot immensely with my job and my YouTube career, and he was actively trying to make money, and now he actually, like, has money from his business, and granted, it's going back into his business, so, like, I'm still funding our life because obviously that makes a lot of sense. It's not the same as my YouTube money. My money is a lot more consistent. It comes in every single month, and his money is very different. So yeah, my point is, it's stupid that people think that men need to pay for stuff and women don't. And me doing that for the last couple of years has honestly been really empowering to me and made me believe in myself and realize that I can do a lot more than I thought I could. And, like, paying our rent and our bills and funding his career for a lot of years and all the stuff that I've done was something that I never ever thought I would do when I was a kid. But honestly, maybe that's just karma for, like, being judgmental and thinking that men need to pay for literally everything. If not, they're a worthless trash person. Okay, next person said sustainability. And this is interesting because I used to be a sustainability channel, in case you guys didn't know. If you go way back on my channel, you'll see my first few videos were all sustainability videos because in 2019 or so, I got really, really into sustainability, like zero waste, recycling, composting, talking about greenwashing and, you know, corporations and factory farming and all this kind of stuff. I definitely did what most people do, and I actually still see it happen online with a lot of people I follow. You get really upset about this issue that, like, the planet is dying and that you just want to fix everything, that you just want to do whatever you can do to fix it, right? And so you're like, oh my God, I need to reduce my plastic consumption. I need to compost. I need to go vegan. Like, there's a lot of things that people want to do to fix it on a personal level, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I personally took it really far to the point where I got really upset if like anybody wasn't recycling, if I was, buying stuff that was plastic. I really, really, really tried to be zero waste. I really tried to reduce my trash. At the end of the day, I got really upset because I looked around and I was like, nothing has changed. Like I did that for a long time. I want to say like a few months, maybe a year. And I realized nothing happened. Like the earth was still dying, plastic still fills the ocean, and it wasn't my fault. Like I would cry watching documentaries about fish and how they have plastic in their, stomachs or whatever. And I would think that it was like my fault. And I would feel so guilty when I did anything that I thought was like ruining the planet because I thought it was my fault. Because corporations, the ones who are really causing all these issues, are somehow tricking us into thinking that we can fix it as consumers. Companies like that who are legitimately destroying the earth and polluting the earth are somehow seen as like, oh, they're just gonna do like whatever they're gonna do, but we need to be the ones to fix it. And if you shop with fast fashion and if you support the company and if you don't recycle, like you are the bad guy. Now, I'm not saying that consumerism and consumer choices don't affect it, because sure, if everybody buys Shein, everybody's gonna keep buying Shein. But if people are buying Shein because it's all they can afford and because it has cute clothes or whatever, yes, it's wrong, but at the same time, it's wrong for them to be making that company in the first place and doing what they do to the planet and what they do to garment workers. And people who need that kind of stuff, who need cheap things, shouldn't be looked down upon. Like being sustainable a lot of times is way more expensive. Buying ethical clothes, ethical shoes, plastic-free products, like the price goes up. People will literally call something green and then just jack the price up because they can. And I think that's pretty fucked up, like especially for low-income people and people who really don't have the option or literally don't even know that this stuff exists. I just think that yes, you should make good choices wherever you can, right? If you choose not to support a fast fashion company, good for you. That's good. And I honestly haven't bought fast fashion in many years, mainly because the clothes are really shitty quality, but I feel really bad buying from places like Shein because I know that their company is really bad. But also at the end of the day, me stopping buying Shein isn't gonna fix the earth's problem, and me, getting an electric car or whatever is not gonna reverse the effects that gas has had on the climate. It's not my responsibility. So yes, I think people should try if they can, if it's affordable, if it's easy to them, as long as they don't feel guilty. But at the end of the day, it's corporations' responsibility. So I don't know how to lobby for changes. I don't know how to get involved. How am I supposed to undo what these corporations have done? Like, how am I supposed to single-handedly take down Shein? I don't know. And so I just don't have any guilt for it anymore, for the most part. And I think that most people should feel that way, because I think it's just not worth feeling guilty about, because you're not gonna save the world, It's kind of a bleak perspective and it sucks, but at the end of the day, I would rather live that way than live in fear and live in guilt 24/7 for something that I'm not even really contributing to. Like, for example, the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. I was just told that it's mostly fishing nets and fishing equipment, and only like a tiny little baby percentage of it is plastic straws. And so big fishing corporations were lobbying for these campaigns to reduce plastic straw consumption to distract from the fact that most of the Pacific Garbage Patch is fishing equipment. Oh, it's just all fucked up. It's all corrupt and it's all an issue, and it's not my fault if I have a plastic straw, because that's not even the biggest issue by a long shot. Yeah, it's kind of upsetting. I don't know how to spin that in a positive way, but whatever. Okay, someone said, things you lean surprisingly conservative on. I would say something I lean kind of conservative on is maybe abortion, because while I do think that it is a woman's right to choose, I definitely am pro-choice. I also am not like super pro-abortion, because I don't know, some people like really go hard on like talking about how it's not a baby and it has no feelings and, it doesn't mean anything, and like abortion is easy or something like that. And like it's, there's trends of like shout your abortion. I saw that one time of like people casually talking about how they just had an abortion, they went home and they didn't think about it. And like, that's fine. I don't think people should feel horrible about themselves if they do that. But also, it's not easy for a lot of people, I'm sure. And I feel like it should be a big deal, and it should be a well thought out decision if you do have to do that. And I do think it should be an absolute last resort. And I feel like instead of, pushing abortion necessarily, we should push like good sex education and free contraception and helping people out low income people, helping people not need to have an abortion because they have a good support system, they have housing, they have food, they have schooling. Like, I don't know, that's why I'm a leftist. That's why I support like socialist programs, because I think that everything starts kind of with people not having housing or money or access to certain things. And so I believe that it's everyone's right to just survive, and that people shouldn't have to work, 80 hours a week just to pay for their family if they're a single mother living in a really dangerous low income area or something like that, or they're living in government housing or whatever. You can't really start a good life if you don't have certain things like security and housing and money and all that kind of stuff. And so I feel like we should focus a lot of our efforts, if we're talking about abortion, on trying to help people avoid abortions. I think it's a really, really difficult subject, and I think some people, maybe without knowing about it or having close personal experience with it or ever had an abortion or knowing someone who had an abortion, I think people kind of minimize it like it means nothing. But I think it does mean something, and it should mean something. And even though absolutely people should have the right to choose and no one should be forced to give birth, there should be a very, very high level of importance and awareness about it and the effects of it and the emotional repercussions and all that kind of stuff. That's kind of one of the only things I can think of. I honestly don't think I lean conservative on almost anything. But also, I'm not like super, super left wing. I don't know. I just think people deserve human rights. Someone said, is non-binary a gender? That is a controversial thing they want my opinion on. TBH, guys, I just don't really care. I will never, ever understand what it's like to be transgender or non-binary or anything like that. I've never experienced any sort of gender dysphoria. And so I will refer to anyone by any pronoun they want. I don't know about neopronouns. I don't understand those. I've never met anybody with those, so it doesn't really matter. But like, if they want me to call them they, them, I will call them they, them. I have multiple people who I know in my personal life who I refer to them as they. And sometimes it's a little bit hard, but you get used to it. It's not really a big deal. I think the whole debate of whether, is there more than two genders or whatever, like, I just don't know why anybody cares. Who cares? Like, sure, scientists, doctors, they can go figure that out by themselves. But like, if someone feels a certain way and they really, really want you to call them that, and if they will be very, very sad and feel alone and hurt and even go as far to be suicidal or whatever, if you don't, refer to them as that and treat them like a human being who just has feelings, why is it so important to people to argue about it? Like, to me, it's just not a big deal. Whether I think it is or not, it doesn't matter because I don't care. Like, I don't know what it's like to be a lesbian, but I'm not going to sit around saying that lesbians aren't real just because I've never felt it in my life. I just don't know. I don't understand the concept of people thinking that their opinions should dictate other people's beliefs. Like, I'm a big, big, big proponent of people believing what they want to believe. If you want to support Donald Trump or think that non-binary isn't a gender, I don't care. Go talk about it. But it doesn't mean that you're right. And it also doesn't mean that I'm right. I think that everybody just needs to meet in the middle with respect. Obviously, there's experts on certain things and doctors and whatever, lawyers, people go to school for stuff. But like, kind of like my COVID thing that I talked about a while ago, just because you think something doesn't make it fact or like it's more important than someone else's feelings. Now, on the opposite side of things, when you want to talk about like cancel culture, for example, stuff like that, where people will, cancel someone because they don't believe a certain thing. Like Caitlyn Jenner, for example. Caitlyn Jenner is a transgender woman who is a Republican, and she's running as a Republican in California. She was, I don't know if she still is. She's actually said a lot of things that are kind of what seem to be against the trans community. She even said like, I don't want to be a trans, ally or representative or whatever. I don't know if she said ally, but she basically said, I'm not going to be, the trans person that everybody looks to because I don't believe what everybody in the trans community believes. And the trans community really doesn't like her for a lot of reasons. Now, again, I'm not trans, so I can't speak on that. But my point is, I think that Caitlyn Jenner should be allowed to believe whatever Caitlyn Jenner wants to believe and talk about it. And yeah, I disagree with it. And yeah, I think if you're trans, you should fight for trans people's rights. And I really hope that Caitlyn Jenner will do that in her lifetime. But at the end of the day, if she doesn't, it doesn't necessarily mean that she deserves to have no career and everybody should hate her and she should be on the outskirts of society where nobody can ever talk to her ever again. I know that that's an extreme, and most people watching me are probably like, yeah, I don't think that. But there are people online, on Twitter especially, who think that like if people believe differently than you should just ostracize them and they don't deserve anything. And if someone's a Republican or whatever, like they should be hated forever. I'm not saying that they're not hateful and that the beliefs are not bad and that people should think that way, because I disagree with almost anything that a Republican would say. But I still am going to respect them, and I still support people sharing their opinions. Do I support sharing harmful opinions that are gonna, get people killed or make people feel suicidal or something like that? No, I think that that's horrible. And I think that there's a reason why, free speech has its limitations. But I don't think that someone simply being a Republican and also being trans should be like not allowed. Like, that's what humanity is. It's a bunch of nuanced people who are all trying to figure out their beliefs. And just because someone has a, weird way of thinking that is probably morally wrong and kind of weird doesn't mean that they don't deserve, money or a career or happiness, like, I don't know. It's just lack of empathy. Like, I can sit in a non-binary person's shoes and say, I don't know what it's like to be non-binary, but I'm still going to respect you. And I'm still going to believe that you feel that you don't fit into either gender. So you want me to refer to you as they, them. And I will see you as a non-binary person, neither a man nor a woman. I won't refer to you as a man or a woman because that's respectful and that is what you want. And I can understand that you feel a different way than me. I think that that needs to go the opposite way as well. People need to, sit in Caitlyn Jenner's shoes and say that, okay, Caitlyn Jenner grew up a certain way. She has her own beliefs. She had a whole life before this, before she came out as transgender. And just because she's transgender doesn't mean she's automatically going to have a certain, set of beliefs. Again, do I think it's okay for a trans person to publicly say things that are harmful about trans people? No, of course it's not okay. I don't think anybody should say harmful things about trans people. But at the end of the day, people have opinions and that's okay. And people have different beliefs and that's okay. Yeah. Let me know. Don't let me know what you think. It doesn't matter what you think. No offense. These are just my opinions. You can tell me your opinions, but I don't need to know what you think of my opinions. I mean, you can tell me. I don't care. Whatever. I don't care. I'll talk to you guys later. Okay. Bye.